What is up, everybody? Welcome back once again to Hot Toys Hotline. As always, if you're new here, please consider dropping a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with all of my most recent content. Well, guys, believe it or not, I have an officially licensed figure review. As you can see in front of me today, I have the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Deluxe, our Tobey Maguire Spider-Man from No Way Home. If you read the thumbnail, you know that there's something a little bit disappointing in this box. So once we get to the figure segment of the video, I will share that with you. But let's not get all gloomy about it. I am still really excited to showcase this set to you guys. Because of the size of the box, I'm not going to be moving it around on camera. It's really gigantic. I'm actually surprised I was able to get it in frame. But really quickly, let me take the plastic clamshell out of the packaging and we'll see how it arrives to you when it lands on your doorstep. All right, now as you can see, I did remove all of the plastic off of everything just so we can get a better look at it here. So you can see this is everything laid out in that main clamshell. I will pull this in frame here. This was inside the packaging in the front. Of course, when you remove the lid, this goes with it. So I did want to bring that in separately. But now without further ado, guys, let's take all the accessories and the figure out of the packaging and let's take a closer look at all of the details. Starting off with the hands, if you guys know me, you know I'm going to be very pleased with the amount of hands included with this figure. As you can see in front of me, we have 10 hands extra included in the box, and we also have 2 pre-installed on the figure. That makes 12 hands. Absolutely awesome. Love to see the variety there. Just quickly going through them, you can see we have some kind of web gripping hands, some more open, relaxed hands. Getting even closer, we of course have our thwipping hands, got to be included with every Spider-Man figure. Some kind of crawling hands, or if you want to have them in that kind of low crouched pose. Funny enough, they did include those little pointing fingers to recreate that famous meme with all 3 Spider-Man pointing each other. So that's going to be absolutely awesome. Cannot wait for that. Getting a little bit closer just to see the detail. I love that kind of silvery effect that Tobey's webbing pattern has. I think it looks absolutely awesome. There is something that I'm going to point out in the figure segment of the video regarding the hands. I'm not going to spoil it right now because I want you guys to kind of see it as I'm talking about it, but I will bring that up later in the video. Next, simply put, you do have your webbing pieces that attach to the hands. They do have a little hole inside of that clear webbing piece to insert the webs that are included in the packaging, and I will show you that next. Let me go grab the web pieces really quickly. And here are all those webbing effects. If you own any Spider-Man figures from Hot Toys, these probably look very familiar because Hot Toys often reuses these, so nothing special here. And as promised, I'll pull in the frame. You do have that web attachment piece for the hand with the web inserted into it, so you can kind of make it look like your Spider-Man is shooting a web off. Definitely really cool, but once again, nothing special. These are the same webbing pieces included in every other Spider-Man figure for the most part. Getting a little bit closer just so you could see, if you're new to Spider-Man figures, these are a sculpted plastic. They're a bit flexible, not really easy to break, so that's definitely a plus. Next, if you've seen the film, you'll recognize this accessory here. You know that each one of our Spider-Men had their own kind of device to nullify the powers of each of the villains from their universe. And of course, this is the one that our Tobey Maguire Spider-Man had to kind of get rid of those sand powers that Sandman has. And it's really nicely done, in my opinion. I love how they kind of use those wires to wrap around to make it look like real wiring. If we get a little bit closer, the paint is really nicely done. There's actually a bit of weathering on it, which is nice. I'll try to get it to focus even closer. As you can see, just really nicely done. No sloppy paint or anything like that. And overall, I'm pretty happy that it includes this because this will be really cool to kind of have all of our heroines standing together holding their specific devices. Next, this would be our special edition exclusive accessory. This is the Doc Ock arm. If you're collecting the No Way Home line in full like I am, or at least close to full, you're probably sick of seeing these. If you guys have the Integrated Suit Deluxe, it does come with these as well. It is really nicely done. It is not the same type of arm that comes with the Doc Ock figure. That is much nicer. This doesn't have those individual links like that has. However, it is posable and bendable. And I will say this one does feel a little bit nicer than the ones that came with the Integrated Suit Deluxe base. I think it's a little bit less bouncy when posed. It feels more sturdy. I don't know if that was what just was included with my copy. However, this does feel a bit nicer. Getting closer on the paintwork, you can see that yellow paint has a lot of weathering on it. Some nice kind of silver dry brushing there on the metal portion. We also have weathering on the claw as well, which is nice. This is fully posable, which is really cool. You can kind of make that wrap around the Sandman base look like Doc Ock is grabbing something. Definitely really cool. Again, I'm kind of sick of it at this point. I hate to say it, so it won't be making it into my display, but definitely a really cool special edition accessory. Next, we do have our flattened kind of fabric mask here. Of course, this is to kind of emulate if Spider-Man were to remove his mask and just kind of have it sitting in his hand. This is really cool that they include this. I probably won't use it personally, but it does look pretty nice. And also it kind of doubles. If you kind of put your pinky in there and imagine you do have your own kind of custom Spooderman mask there, so. Next, we have our Sandman base. Obviously, this thing is a Gigantor. Here's my hand next to Sandman's head. As you can see, a very large display base, but holy crap, guys, this looks absolutely incredible. I want to get a close-up on that face so you can really see all the details and everything. Now, a lot of people have questions about, how this is painted, what is on here. It is actually like a real sand or a grain material. It feels like real sand. So I'm guessing they just kind of painted it over and then just kind of layered it with some real sand. It looks really nice. You can see there's some weathering on kind of that steel beam inserted in the side there. If we get even closer on the bottom, all those different little spikes and everything sticking up. It is really nicely done. I love that hand there. I'm sure you guys have probably seen that old Hot Toys Spider-Man 3 figure that came with the Sandman base. I think this is leaps and bounds better than that one. That one is still pretty cool just because I really like that kind of full torso look. However, this one I think is much more in scale, and I think this looks absolutely awesome. Again, just some really nice detail there using that real sand. I think it makes it really look convincing in my opinion. You can see some different rocks and everything painted very nicely. This does move around this head here. I noticed it was shifting. You can see there's a split there. It wasn't really easy to pull off, so I didn't want to force it. I'm sure it is removable. There is kind of a foam piece underneath of that to protect it from rubbing in the box. I noticed mine was still kind of rubbing a little bit. You could see a little bit of a rub mark there. Not the best protection. I know the question a lot of people have is the sand coming off on your hands as you're touching it? I'm not gonna lie, it is a little bit. It's not a tremendous amount, but I feel like as you handle it, that will happen. It's just kind of the nature of how it was done, so definitely keep that in mind. Flipping it to the bottom, you do have your kind of Marvel text and everything that's required by law, but you do have some nice foam on the bottom as well, which is really nice. But again, overall, this is really nicely done. I'm very happy that I got the deluxe. Before I forget, we also have these kind of construction site pieces here. Some really nice weathering on these, as you can see. They obviously attach to the base somehow. Of course, I'll do that before the end of this video. And finally, certainly last but not least, we have the Tobey Maguire head sculpt. I had to brighten up the shot a little bit so you can really get an idea of what this sculpt is looking like. As you can see, those eyes, those bright blue eyes are painted beautifully. I love how that 5 o'clock shadow looks on the face. I think this is really nicely done, guys. You can see the hair is nicely sculpted as well. They even kind of got that birthmark slash mole there on Tobey's face. Just really nicely done overall. I'm very pleased with how this looks. I think they did a great job. I know some people were skeptical when they first saw the final product photos. I really think it was the lighting. I'll back it up a little bit here so you can really get an idea of how it looks. Just a fantastic looking sculpt overall. I'm very pleased with how this looks. I will point out this little pleather piece here on the connector was just kind of peeling off in the box. It still kind of is. You really got to push it down to get it to stick. Don't know what that's about. This has that head sculpt system with the little prongs. It's kind of annoying. Same thing as the Andrew Garfield figure. This is posable, by the way. It's a bit limited, but you can move the head on this neck here. Overall, really nicely done though, guys. I'm very pleased with how it looks. I'll give you one more close up here. As you can see, those eyes are really nicely done. But now let me grab the figure and let's see what we think of the Hot Toys Tobey Maguire Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Now here we are finally with our Tobey Maguire Spider-Man from No Way Home. Now of course, as always guys, I'll give you a quick 360 tour around the figure just so you can get an idea of what the proportions are looking like. And overall, I think the proportions are pretty decent. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. But I think Hot Toys did a pretty decent job at kind of nailing that body type that Tobey Maguire has, especially in this film. I do want to get closer up so we can get an idea of what that suit is looking like. Really always been a big fan of that kind of shininess, that sheen that the webbing pattern has and the spider there on the front. And I think the No Way Home suit is a pretty good looking suit. Now guys, the elephant in the room, of course, is going to be this mask sculpt here. A lot of people have been talking about it. Something I want to point out, and I'm going to get a little bit closer up. I want to really address it now before I move forward with this video. I'll get even closer. As you can see, this is the first batch from Sideshow. Of course, if you're aware of what the situation was with the mask sculpt, you'll know that looking at this, mine absolutely looks like the first batch mask. Now, how do you tell if it looks like a first batch or second batch mask? If you look at the webbing pattern where it meets in the middle, the lenses are supposed to be lower on the face. As you can see, mine are at the top of the webbing pattern. If you look at the prototype, this actually was correct. And then when the final product came out, this is basically what we were greeted with. Some of them were even worse than this. A lot of people, of course, complained, and Hot Toys was actually issuing replacements at Secret Base. A lot of people were saying, oh, apparently the deluxe version has the second batch mask, but people who got the singular figure without the base were getting the first batch mask. This is the deluxe version, guys. You've seen me show off the base, and as you can see, I have the original mask. Some of you guys are probably looking at this and you're like, dude, relax, it's not that big of a deal. And I totally get it. It really, at the end of the day, is not a huge deal to most people. And I'm normally not complaining about stuff like this. However, this is such an important character to me. And also the fact that Hot Toys went in and replaced these, it's a bit unfortunate. Now, I did reach out to Sideshow, and they basically told me the typical thing that they say when they don't have a replacement for you. They said, hey, we don't have anything additional in the warehouse that will meet your expectations that's any different from what you have. Of course, I pleaded with them, hey, I would really like a replacement for this. I showed them photos of what I was talking about, side-by-side comparisons. They said they reached out to Hot Toys, and Hot Toys said, oh, we never sent any second batch masks over to Sideshow. I find that hard to believe. Again, looking at this here, this absolutely looks like that first batch mask. You can see the webbing pattern is a little crooked as well on mine. Not a huge deal, but again, overall, I'm very dissatisfied with what I'm seeing here from this mask head. Also, another thing is that very visible seam. Mine isn't really terrible. Usually it's really bad where it has a big bump there. Mine isn't the best I've seen, but it's certainly not the worst. You guys know the visible seam on the Spider-Man head sculpts is very puzzling. Why they don't just fully move it to the back, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I know the ins and outs of manufacturing, but I just wanted to point that out to you guys. I'm very disappointed. Sideshow wasn't able to replace it for me, and I don't blame the employee or anything like that. The employee was basically just doing what they were told. So I'm very disappointed in that I wasn't given any sort of replacement options, or at least the option to try a different one and see if it was a little bit better for me. So definitely very, very disappointed about that from Sideshow. However, guys, let's move on and take a look at the rest of the figure here. Again, I really love this webbing pattern on this suit. If we get closer on that blue portion, you can see there's some texture there that you can't really see unless you get really close. It's really nicely done. The thing that I wanted to point out, I mentioned this earlier about the hands. You can see the color of the hands doesn't really match the suit very well. It was kind of the same case with Andrew. It's obviously the same case here. I wish it was a little bit more easy for them to match that color. It is a bit noticeable. However, when you're far back in your display, it's not nearly as noticeable as it is when you're close up. So I'm not going to complain too much about that. As you can see, you can kind of see the knee joints there through the suit, but I think it's pretty well masked in my opinion. You do have some nice seamless feet here, no kind of sucked in material inside the joint. So that's nice to see. Moving around to the back, just love these classic colors. I know this is a newer suit for No Way Home, but this is just such a beautiful suit. Such a nice tribute to our Raimi-verse Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Love that bright red spider on the back. Just overall, I do like how the suit looks. Again, it's just a bit disappointing. That mask sculpt there just really kind of brings it down a notch for me. And there's the head sculpt on the figure. Honestly, guys, I'm probably going to end up running the head sculpt. Now that I know that I'm not going to get that second batch mask, it just bothers me in my display. You can see, again, there is a visible neck seam. A lot of these customizers that are doing custom versions of this figure or custom modifications, they've been able to hide that neck seam and it looks 10 times better. It's a bit unfortunate. It's not a complete deal breaker for me. However, I did want to point out it is very visible in person. I know sometimes you're like, oh, is it really that visible? It is visible in person. In terms of articulation, guys, just very quickly, you have some nice ratcheted joints. I hope you guys can hear that on the camera. Really nicely done there in terms of the body choice. I'm pretty happy about that. Putting the arms forward, no issues there. This is a cloth material, at least on the red portion, so it's very posable. Be careful, of course, with that webbing pattern, holding it in a pose over time. In terms of the articulation of the elbows, you do have double jointed elbows there. Nice articulation there. In terms of the abdominal crunch, a nice ratcheted joint there as well. You can see the material bunching up there a little bit, but come on now, guys. This is a fabric suit in the film as well, so it's going to bunch up. That doesn't bother me at all. In terms of the articulation here, the suit is a bit tight, but it will kind of work with you. And once again, guys, be very careful. You can see already just from doing that, there is a bit of an imprint in the suit. Of course, that will heal over time, but just keep in mind, if you hold it in a pose like that for a while, it may not treat you the best. In terms of the hand articulation, guys, you do have full 360 rotation, and there is a rocker ball joint in there. I can imagine this will be a little bit limited because of how close that suit is to the hand. However, you should be able to get some decent posability out of it. In terms of the knee articulation, you can get it really beyond 90. Very pleased with that. No complaints. When it comes to these Spider-Man figure, guys, obviously you want ultimate posability, and I think they've nailed that here with this figure. In terms of the feet, you can rock it up and down, side to side, and you also have that toe articulation, which is really nice to see. Just overall, a pretty decent body. Again, guys, there are just some detractors that I'm not a huge fan of. But without further ado, guys, let me throw this figure in a couple poses and we'll close out this video. I hate to say it, guys, but I'm a little bit let down by this release. And it's really hard for me to say because Tobey Maguire is my favorite Spider-Man, and this was one of my most highly anticipated releases for this year. However, because of that mass situation and the response that I got from Sideshow, it really just kind of put me off overall for this release. I'm still very happy that I have it. It's still awesome to have a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man in this fashion. Again, I'm just a little bit let down. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Am I complaining too much? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Take care. I'll see you next time, and I am out.